on the other line, so I'm not gonna.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of I'm Not Gonna Hold You. It is Thursday, November 17th, 2022. As usual, I'm your host, Scott. You know to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BarbChairScott. You know to follow H&B Media, H&B Media TV on Twitter, and then H&B Media on Instagram. Follow the Barbershop Network at BarbershopNet on Twitter and IG. And of course, visit the website, thebcnet.com. Visit our Patreon, subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/ Barber's Chair Network. Man, we got a lot of stuff. Not a lot of stuff, but we got some stuff to get into today on today's edition of the show, man. Just a show update. There will not be a show next week because obviously next Thursday is Thanksgiving, and I'll now be heading to New York on Friday, so will not be any show next week. We'll be back the week after to recap everything from week 12 and get you ready for week 13, man. But before we get into everything, man, Stu, my sound off. It's not really a sound off this week. Last week was more of a sound off, but I just really want to use this sound off to give my condolences to the family of the three players who lost their lives this past weekend at the University of Virginia. Three players: Devin Chandler, Deshaun Perry, Lavelle Davis Jr. Man, I want to give thoughts and prayers out to the family after another tragic shooting that we have here in America, man. I think that I don't know what else more needs to be said about guns need for it to need to be harder for people to get access to guns, man. But getting sick and tired of the senseless killing, especially senseless killing of young black men. It's getting to a point. Well, it's been to a point where it's really sick, man. These players are just kids, you know. They had their whole lives in front of them, man. So I just want to send my prayers and thoughts out to the family and friends of all three of those individuals. Also, give thoughts and prayers out to their teammates and everybody who attends or ever has attended University of Virginia, the whole University of Virginia family out there, man. So I just want to give my thoughts, prayers, and condolences out to you guys for my sound off, man. Let's just get into our week 10 recap. I know this is a kind of a messed up transition, but let's get into our week 10 recap. I'm gonna go over, of course, my usual 5 observations I've had from this past week of football, man. We're gonna start with number 5. The NFL is wide open. Like, you know, we're 10 weeks in this season. Week 11 kicks off tonight in Green Bay. And it doesn't feel like there's a true favorite right now. I mean, you've got teams like Kansas City, who looks like the best team in the AFC right now. The Bills have dropped a couple games. We'll get to them in a minute. Miami is coming up. But you've also got teams like the Seattle Seahawks who are leading the division. You got teams like the San Francisco 49ers. Even though they're only at 500, they have a team that could win a Super Bowl. You got Tom Brady's now won 2 in a row. You know, you've got all these different things, all these different storylines. Of course, I can't forget about the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings with a big dub over the Buffalo Bills this past week. And it really feels like you can make a strong case for at least 6 teams out there to win the Super Bowl this year, which is, I won't say it's like out of the norm, because I do feel like out of all the 3 sports, you know, NFL is definitely one of them where like anybody can win. It's any given Sunday, but it really feels like there's no team that has just the ultimate edge on everybody. Even in the years that anybody can win, you still usually have a favorite. I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite this year. You know, of course, starting the season looked like it was going to be Buffalo. Buffalo's fallen down a couple notches these last couple weeks, so I'm really excited to see how this stretch run of the season. And we're pulling up on a stretch run. Everybody said the real teams win in November and December. So, Thanksgiving is a week from now. That's when you're really going to start to see, who can win these games when it's colder outside. And you've got the elements involved leading into January, where it's going to be playoff time, man. So it's really exciting to see. And there's been a lot of bad football. Let's be clear about that. I don't want to make it look like it's just been a good football. This has definitely been not the best NFL season for sure. It's been a lot of bad games. Thursday night football, as much as I love Thursday, and as much as I just love any reason to watch football, there's been maybe 2 good games on Thursday night football all this season. And, a lot of the mid-afternoon slates have been kind of trash. This upcoming week ain't that promising. So there's been a lot of bad football, but at the same time, with that being bad football, doesn't feel like there's a team that's just head and shoulders above everybody, man. So that's my number 5 observation. Number 4, NFL international thing that we've had these last couple years, it's a success. Now, when it first started, I think like maybe a couple years ago, it was like you get one game in London. This year's the first time we've seen multiple games. It was like 3 London games this year and a Germany game. First time the NFL has been in Germany, and it was in Munich, Germany. It was a complete success. I mean, you just saw just how big that soccer field. And I know I sound real American calling the soccer field, because they look at football, soccer as football. And if you think about it, it really is, because I don't even know why American football is called football. Like with Lisa with soccer, like they're actually kicking, with their feet. That makes more sense. But it was cool to see that stadium packed up with NFL fans, and you just feel like it feels like there's a presence there for this fan base and just for the entire league in general. All 3 games were a success, and I think this is something that's going to build from here. I wouldn't be shocked if we get more international games. Now, I don't know if it's going to be something where you have a whole international division. I think that would be kind of tough for the simple fact that just traveling wise for the teams. Like, imagine you're the first NFL team in Europe, and you got a West Coast trip, and you got to head to Seattle, or you got to head to LA. That's a 9-hour difference. That's a big thing that can just mess you up on your preparation and even getting ready for games. So, and I do think probably there will be an international division. I don't know how they're gonna work that out because of the big time between the two. I know the Seahawks, they said that the Seahawks went through 9 different time zones, just to get to this place, man. So that would be something that would be kind of difficult, but I definitely don't think that's off the table. But it's been fun, and I actually want to hit one of these games up next year. I know they're going to do a couple more next year. Maybe Italy is on the table, maybe France is on the table, and I think you're really starting to see just the broad stretch of the NFL now. I mean, you can just think about 7-8 years ago, it was a stretch to even bring football to Los Angeles. And a lot of people, a lot of owners didn't think they'll be able to bring football to Los Angeles, with the fan base in LA care about it, and that's become a smashing success. So I definitely think that's the next move for the NFL, is fully immersing themselves even more, on an international scale. And it's been dope, and it was just dope to see that game between Seattle and Tampa, which was a good game, and to see the crowd. Even when the game was over, the crowd was still there. The crowd was still there. Nobody left. Everybody singing in unison, kind of felt like an episode of Ted Lasso. It was real, real cool to see, man. So the NFL International was definitely a success. So that's my number 4 observation. Number 3, man, Jeff Saturday. Jeff Saturday got out here, got a dub. His first week as an NFL coach, everybody canned it. I canned it. A lot of people canned this hiring, by the way, just because they beat the Raiders. I'm not gonna, jump off my prediction. They get ready to play Philly this week. You're gonna get pushed into the deep end of the pool, but I still got to give a little love to Jeff Saturday. Never have coached anything offside of the high school level. Having a guy calling plays who's never called plays before, and to go out there and win in your first ever game as a head coach, inserting Matt Ryan back into the fold, and just completely just getting all that done in less than a week, I thought was pretty impressive, even though the Las Vegas Raiders are by far the most disappointing team in the NFL this year. So I got to give some love to Jeff Saturday for a win. Now they get thrown into the deep end this weekend, get ready to play Philly, and Philly's pissed off. They just came off a loss to the Commanders. So that's going to be a little different situation for them. If they're able to find a way to win, then I think we might look at it like, hey, Jim Irsay might have been a step or two ahead of us, man. But it's more about the process more than the actual results for me, which is why I'm not standing off my take on it. I know Pat McAfee was shooting at a lot of people this week. None of that was inner Colts bias coming out, which is fine. I have no problem with people who, have a little bias in them when it comes to situations. I get it. He's a former coach. I understand, but I don't think that Joe Thomas or Bill Cowher were wrong about the things they said last week. I do still think it was a slap in the face to all people who actually coached in their career and, tried to give up to this, particular, you know, hiring, something that, Jeff Saturday was pretty much just given. So it's still a process over results to me. But at the end of the day, I still got to tip my hat for him actually getting the dub. That's not an easy thing to do in the NFL, especially with never coaching before and to have that short of a time period to get together. To get the game plan together. Now, on the flip side of it, the Las Vegas Raiders, man, what a mess. What a mess that is going on. This is a team, and really the whole division outside of Kansas City, where I thought this was going to be the best division in football. You know, you had Russell Wilson coming to the Denver Broncos. They look god awful. And the Russell Wilson looks like that he shouldn't even be playing football right now. He looked like he should be hosting a reality show with Sierra. Like it just looks that bad. Or as the one and only Stu God says, he believes that Russell Wilson is playing himself out of the Hall of Fame right now. And you see what's going on with the Chargers. Brandon Staley needs to be under penitentiary for turning Justin Herbert into check down Charlie. It's really ridiculous what's going on the other side of SoFi Stadium. But the Raiders, man, you go out there, you get a new head coach in Josh McDaniels. You go out there, trade all these assets, spend all this money on Devontae Adams, and you're a worse team than the Bears. You're a worse team than the Detroit Lions. Like they are going to have a top 3 draft pick coming up. Nobody saw this coming. And I got to give some credit to Derek Carr, man. The emotion I saw from Derek Carr in his post-game interview on Sunday was the stuff you want to see from your quarterback. Now, having said that, I do think he's going to be on his way out, especially if they get a top 3 pick. They're going to go out there and try to get them a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. They're going to try to go in that direction. Now, that doesn't mean that Derek Carr is going to be benched right away because these young quarterbacks still take time to develop. But I do think that the hours are the minutes are ticking in Derek Carr's time in Las Vegas. But at the same time, I gotta give him credit because you saw the emotion on his face. You saw how angry he was to the point where he was tearing up. And he said that this is not about Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels is a good coach. We love what Josh is doing. But we go out here and we do so much. And really, to me, he put a real emphasis on what I think a lot of fans don't think about it, just how much these players go through to not just play, but just to practice, all the pain they go through just to get their body ready for practice. And I said it just I literally just came back from Bears practice like 20 minutes ago, and just to see like all the preparation they've got, all these guys, walking slow with all the beatings they've been having. And Justin Fields telling us that he's taking it a little slow this week because his legs are sore from all the running he's been doing. Like there's just so much preparation that these players put just to practice, and they're going to say that we're doing all this. We have a good practices. We have good game plan, and to go out there and lay eggs the way we do. He said he said it pisses him off because he doesn't feel like everybody in the locker room is feeling the same way. And that to me spoke volumes because there's obviously some guys in that locker room who aren't playing the way that Derek Carr and Devontae Adams and a lot of these people, a lot of the leaders on the team think that they should be playing. And that's a problem right there. And I don't really even think it's a Josh. I mean, Josh McDaniels definitely got to take some credit for it. I mean, some of the blame for it because he is the head coach. But it's just an astronomical failure right now. And I know a lot of people's like, you should fire him. And then they were so shocked when the information came out that Mark Davis isn't gonna fire anybody because they're still paying John Gruden, which is true. At the end of the day, like this is still a business at the end of the day. They're not gonna be on the hook for paying 2 different coaches. And I feel like you gotta ride through this. And it's just a mess out there, and I kind of feel sorry for Raider fans because last year they've already lost more games this year than they did last year. They had the Josh Gruden scandal. You had Henry Ruggs literally killed somebody in that car crash, and Derek Carr came up, really stepped up as a leader behind the team. They were able to rally behind him, go to the playoffs, and almost win a playoff game. They went head to head with Joe Burrow and them in that wild card game. And then to come off that and to have a great offseason that they had and getting Devontae Adams just completely lay the egg that they did, it's crazy just how quickly that failed, man. So it's just really the 2 different sides of the coin that we're seeing from this team, man. My next observation. We officially not that the number 1 seed race in the NFC wasn't raced before, but now that the Philadelphia Eagles lost this past Monday night to the Commanders, this number 1 seed race is getting interesting. Now you have the Eagles who only have 1 loss, and you've got the Vikings who only have 1 loss. Both are 7-1. Now the Eagles are still number 1 because they beat the Vikings in week 2 of this season. But this is something that's going to go down to the wire now because remember, with the new Super Wild Card format, only number 1 seed gets a first round bye. The NFC North is already signed, sealed, and delivered for the Minnesota Vikings. The Bears aren't going to win this. The Lions aren't going to win this. I don't care about the little fake win that the Packers had. The Packers are cooked. Nobody's coming to win this division. They've got this division, and now the Vikings need to be setting their eyes on getting the first round bye and having a road to the Super Bowl go through Minnesota. And that's going to be something that's going to be fun to see how the Eagles going to react now. We haven't seen the Eagles react with responding to adversity. This team hasn't responded to adversity this year because they've been on cruise control all year. How's it going to be at the end of games when they just signed Ndamukong Suh today, trying to shore up that defensive line, adding him to the Robert Quinns and to that already good defense that they got over there. And it's going to be fun to see for the rest of the season because there are a couple NFC East matchups coming up that the Eagles have that's going to get really interesting. They still got another Giants game. They still got another Cowboys game. And those two teams are not far behind them. So I'm really interested to see how this is going to go for the rest of the season. And number one observation, man, the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills were on cruise control the first 2 months of this season. Last week, they took a tough loss to the New York Jets. And this week, they took an extremely tough loss to the Minnesota Vikings. Again, they had no business losing. Josh Allen fumbling the ball on the goal line, which led to a touchdown by the Minnesota Vikings that gave them a 3-point lead. He went out there, marched them down the field, tied the game, got into overtime, and then just throws a duck. Now, it was the second pick of the game. Second pick of the game. He threw one in the end zone also earlier in the game. Threw a pick to Patrick Peterson that sealed the game. The Vikings come down and they win it. And this is something where I don't want to say I'm not really worried about the Bills per se, but I do think that this is something that is now a problem for them because they went from first place to now they're third place in the AFC East behind the Miami Dolphins and behind the New York Jets. And even worse, like I said last week, that the division was about to get interesting. They lost to both of those teams. So they're really like a full game behind both of those teams. They've got 2 more games coming up with them. So they've kind of got to play mistake-free football the rest of this year because you don't want to be on the road to open up the season, open up the playoffs. You want to have the road to the championship coming through Buffalo. Remember when they beat Kansas City a couple weeks ago, we said, okay, this is good because now Kansas City's got to come to Buffalo instead of Buffalo going to Kansas City, which didn't work in their favor last postseason. The way it's looking right now, they might have another trip to Kansas City, and you don't want to have to face Patrick Mahomes in his house twice. It's just not going to work out for them. So right now, they're in a particular situation where I'm worried about them as far as what their seeding is going to be because the AFC is miles better than the NFC. And it's kind of when the playoffs start, there's really no favorable matchup for them. And they need to get it together. And as far as Josh Allen, I'm not really worried about Josh Allen either. He looked like he was healthy to me. I think he's doing too much with 4 turnovers. Actually, it's like 5 turnovers in the last 2 games. He just needs to calm that down and refocus and get it together. And I think that Josh Allen will be fine. I still think, he was the leading MVP candidate. Patrick Mahomes is making a charge right now. And the Bills need to wake up and understand that, we can still win this. It's fine. Remember the Los Angeles Rams last year, after starting off hot, they lost like 3 out of 4. And then they were able to get Odell Beckham Jr., got Von Miller, and they were able to get back on track. Now, we don't know Odell watch is still going on. Maybe Odell comes to Buffalo and joins the fold with them. But really, more than anything, they just got to play smarter football because they had these last 2 games, but just play dumb down the stretch. So that's just some things they got to clear up, man. Now we're going to go into my power rankings, my week 10 power rankings. Man. We got a little shift here going on. We got for number 10, I'm going to have the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens, I think this is their bye week this week. They did not play last week. Baltimore Ravens did not play last week, so they're still looking good, 6-3, leading their division. I'm going to put them at number 10. Number 9, I've got the now second place New York Jets, New York Football Jets. They had their bye week this past week, but they still coming off a big win off of Buffalo. And now the biggest thing for the Jets is, can you have Zach Wilson not play like an idiot? If they can do that, they're putting themselves in a good position. Maybe they can host a wild card game. So I'm going to put the New York Jets at number 9. Number 8, this team should be ashamed of themselves. The Dallas Cowboys. It's like when Aaron Rodgers plays the Cowboys, I feel like he envisions them wearing Bears uniform because he owns them just as much as he owns the Bears. Like, it is ridiculous. You have a team that was struggling to score. all season, go up there, put 28 points, let a rookie wide receiver go crazy on them. A game that they had a double-digit lead and just completely let their foot off the gas. The Cowboys should be ashamed of themselves, especially in the week that the Philadelphia Eagles lost and they had an opportunity to gain ground. So I'm going to put the Dallas Cowboys at number 8. Number 7, I've got Seattle again, Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, they lost to the Buccaneers in Germany this week. Not nervous about them. They still played pretty good. It was a close game. They're still number 1 in their division. I think they're gonna right these wrongs and they'll be fine. I'm still loving the Geno Smith campaign he's putting together, and I think Pete Carroll had those boys ready to respond. So I'm not worried about the Seattle Seahawks. I'm putting them at number 7. Now, number 6, this team, I kind of feel the same way about this team as I feel about Minnesota. They are the most fraudulent 7-2 team I've ever seen in my life. But like I said, this is a power ranking that just goes week to week. This is not my overall opinion on how I feel they're going to do once the postseason starts. This is a week thing. They're 7-2. They're second place in the NFC East. I can't really front on them from the wins that they're getting. Daniel Jones had a pretty good game this week, so I'm going to put the New York Football Giants at number 6. Number 5, a big fall from grace on this power rankings. They went from being number 1 on this list for 8 straight weeks to dropping to number 3. They're dropping 2 more spots on this list. I'm putting the Buffalo Bills at number 5. Like I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, they got to just learn how they just got to snap out of it, get back to playing winning football. Josh Allen's got cut down on the turnovers, and they'll be fine. But I'm going to put the Buffalo Bills at number 5. And number 4 is the now new AFC East leading Miami Dolphins, who moved to 7-3 this week. They are 7-0 win Tua Tagovailoa plays. He had another great game this week. Just love what they're doing in Miami, man. And this is something that's not a team I want to play, but they're doing good each week. They're bouncing back. The offense looks good. The defense is making some plays last week. Had a beat down over the Cleveland Browns this week. I'm putting Mike McDaniels, Miami Dolphins at number 4 on my list. Number 3, Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings are 7-1. Like I said, once the playoffs start, I don't believe in them because you live by Kirk Cousins, you die by Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, I don't care if this team finishes 16-1. Kirk Cousins gonna have a Matthew Stafford like postseason for me to shut up, because I know exactly what kind of time it is when you play Kirk Cousins. I know how it is. He's going to eventually mess the money up. That's just how he is. That's just how he plays the game. I don't care how great the defense is. I don't care how great the running game is. I don't care how amazing Justin Jefferson is. Kirk Cousins got to prove me he can win a playoff game, but he had a pretty solid game this week. They went to the belly of the beast, got a W. They're 7-1. They've got a great chance to have the road to the Super Bowl come through Minnesota, man. So I got to put them on the list. I got to put them high at number 3. Number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles, still the same spot they were last week. Lost to the Commanders. Shout out to Taylor Heineke. Shout out to Scary Terry. That whole team had a great W on the road last week. Eventually was going to have to lose the game. I'm not worried about the Eagles in the slightest. They'll be fine. Like I mentioned earlier, they playing the Indianapolis Colts coming up. That's a good get-right game. Jalen Hurts will be fine. Stop the hot takes about, well, if he's not running, and they only do this to black quarterbacks, by the way. Well, if he's not running the football, how are they gonna move the football down the field? Jalen Hurts can throw. Okay, like it's the same thing we see with Justin Fields. And it's even more egregious with Jalen because Jalen is an MVP candidate this year. The man will be fine. You lose games in football. This is the first mistake they've made in 2.5 weeks of this season. Everybody relax. They will be good. I'm putting Philadelphia Eagles at number 2. Number 1, for the second week in a row, Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, man, he is officially in that Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Tiger Woods, Venus tier of he's too good and we tired of talking about him. That's where and I also got to put Steph Curry in there. I got to put my man Steph in that tier. He's putting together MVP caliber year. They're going out there, I think they're 8-3 right now. They're looking like the team to beat. Now, I have my questions once the playoffs start because, yes, they're moving the ball around now, but I fear the lack of Tyreek Hill might be a problem come playoff time. because I don't know if I trust Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling to make plays come playoff time. But like I said, this is a list about the regular season. And the regular season, the last couple weeks, they have really reestablished dominance and done what they had to do to have the best record in the AFC. So I'm going to put the Kansas City Chiefs at number one. And y'all know a couple y'all like, why you got the number one? They got 3 losses. The Vikings and the Eagles have 1 loss. Yeah, that's true. But you know what the difference between them teams? Patrick Mahomes. So that's why they're number one. So I'm going to put the Kansas City Chiefs at number one on my Week 10 power rankings, man. So now we get into our Week 11 preview, man. We're going to do our usual top 3 must-watch games of the year. Of the week. Number 3 is tonight, Thursday Night Football. We actually got a good Thursday Night Football game on paper. The Green Bay Packers will be hosting the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans are 6-3, are in the lead of the AFC South. Ryan Tannehill had a good game last week. Of course, we all know what you're getting when you play Derrick Henry. The defense has been making plays, and this is an opportunity for Green Bay to get back in the Super Wild Card race. They can win this one. There'll be a game off of 500. And they've got a little momentum going on here. So this is a big game for the Packers. They'll be at home. And the Titans, if you're the Titans, you want to go over there and just run the football. Run the football. There should be only throw the football when you have to, because they have no answer. This Packer defense will have no answer for Derrick Henry. Just keep running the football. So that's my number 3 must-watch game of the week. Number 2 is going to be Sunday Night Football this week, which will be at SoFi Stadium between the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. Man, this is a game where we all remember week 2, which is one of the few good Thursday Night Football games that we got this season. And this is a game where I feel like Patrick Mahomes and they can come in and they can put it into the division race right now. If you're the Chargers, you need to take a stand, protect your home field, and go out there and try to find a way to get some consistency and try to bring yourself back in this wild card race. So that's my number 3. Number 2, Vikings Cowboys in Minnesota. Like I said earlier, the Vikings are still on this new chase with the Philadelphia Eagles to get the number 1 seed in the NFC. The Cowboys coming off a very tough loss last week. They need to go out here and reestablish themselves. And you don't want to fall too far behind the Eagles and the New York Giants. They need to go out here and shake this loss off and go get a W. This is a team that's been playing well, and if you can go over there on the road and get a win, that's going to boost your morale a little bit, and you're going to feel a lot more confident heading into the stretch run of this season. So those are my top 3 must-watch games. Now we're going to get into my top 3 sneaky good games coming into this week, week 11. Number 3, Patriots-Jets. Now, this is a sneaky good one because Patriots-Jets has been very competitive this year. This is a game where the Jets, now they see an opportunity to stay ahead of the Buffalo Bills in the standings. If they do have to play them coming soon, that game will be at MetLife Stadium and not in Buffalo. So then this is opportunity for them to get a division W and keep stacking up wins. The question here for the Jets for the rest of the season is, how well will Zach Wilson play? We know the running game is going to be good. We know Sauce Gardner and that defense is going to be good. But what is Zach Wilson going to do? Can he limit his mistakes and do enough for this team to continue their winning ways? And for the Patriots, they're still in the wild card race too. They're at the bottom of it, but they're in the wild card race. They need to go out there and try to get a W. So this has sneaky good potential written all over it. Number 2, now preferences saying if Kyler Murray plays. I haven't really checked yet, so I'm guessing he will play. He was in concussion protocol last week, so he should be out of it by now. There's going to be Cardinals-Niners. Niners got a W off the Chargers last week. They're trying to build off that momentum and stay in this race because the NFC West isn't over. They're only, a game and a half behind the Seahawks. They need to stay afloat, go out here, pounce on a team that's been mediocre to say the least in the Cardinals, and keep their standing in the NFC West. Now, my number 1 sneaky good game is a game that I will be in attendance for this week. Falcons-Bears. This is a game where if you like defense, don't turn it on because there will be none of that going on in this game. This, I believe, will be a very high-scoring affair. You've got a team, 2 of the best running offenses in the league, and also you got 2 of the worst running defenses in the league. And you've got a guy in Justin Fields who's just been on fire. top to bottom this year. And you got a team in the Falcons who have played much better than anybody is expected coming to the season. I thought the Vikings weren't going to. I mean, I thought the Falcons weren't going to win more than 2 games this year, and They've done a much better job of that. Have coming off 2 really big losses, but when you're playing the Bears defense is playing as bad as they're playing right now, you got yourselves a shot. This will also be the Justin Fields homecoming. We was able to speak to him yesterday, and he said that how his pops was a Atlanta Falcons season ticket holder. He used to go to the games all the time, and he said something that made me feel extremely old. He said that his favorite players growing up was Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, and a guy my age, you immediately think, oh, his favorite player is Michael Vick. I forget this dude's 23. He doesn't remember Michael Vick. So, to see that, there's going to be kind of a homecoming there for him. I expect a ton of Bears fans because a lot of Chicago people live in Atlanta. I know a lot of Chicago people are going down to Atlanta. And, of course, Justin Fields from the area. There's going to be a lot of his family there. So it's going to be a real fun atmosphere. And I think it's going to be a very high-scoring game. And if you like offense, this, I believe, is the game for you. And I cannot believe I'm saying this about a Chicago Bears offense, but here we are. So those are my top 3 sneaky good games: Patriots, Jets, Cardinals, Niners, and Falcons, Bears. Now, as we get into our Week 11 predictions, I had a bad week last week. In my Week 10 predictions, I went 5-8. Not my best week, and probably my worst week of the year. But my overall season record is 83-50-1. So I think I'm doing pretty good. So now let's get into our Week 11 predictions. Like I said earlier, tonight, Thursday Night Football kicks off Week 11 at Lambeau Field. The Tennessee Titans going up against the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans because I'm not believing in Green Bay yet. They got to win, but they got to win against a stupid team. And I don't feel that the Titans will do enough stupid stuff to allow them to win. And I just feel like keep feeding Derrick Henry. Keep feeding Derrick Henry until they stop them. This can be a game that Tannehill has like 17 passing attempts if you keep it the way it's supposed to be kept and just continue feeding the beast. So I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans in this one. Bears Falcons, as usual, I'll get my full in-depth and my actual score on the 79th and Hollis preview podcast, which will be dropping tomorrow on the Barber's Chair Patreon. I'm going to say the Bears going to win. I just want to be very clear. I am not confident about this pick in the slightest. This defense, maybe the worst Bears defense I've seen in my life. And this is coming from a guy who actually watched that Mel Tucker 2013 defense, but that was more of our best defenders were old. And Brian Urlacher, not even Brian Urlacher was gone. Well, Lance Briggs, Julius Peppers, guys like that. It was more of an old Peanut Tillman, more of an old defense. This is it's just bad. Like, outside of the secondary, and even though Jalen Johnson had a terrible game last week, but I give it to more of him not being healthy because he never plays that bad. They have no pass rush. I'm talking about like absolutely no pass rush. The linebackers for them, Nicholas Morrow might be working at Wingstop next year. I got you with the Jack Sanborn. He had a really good game, and if they wouldn't have called that crappy penalty, he'd have had him a 2-sack and an interception game last week, and the Bears would have actually won that game. But I got to give the Jack Sanborn, but the rest of that defense, terrible. It's disrespectful, and the Bears literally have to score every drive for them to have a chance. So I'm not very confident they're going to win this game, but I'm going to pick them to win this game because if they don't win this game, I don't see another win. So maybe the last game of the season where 9 times out of 10, they're going to be playing the Minnesota Vikings backups. So I think we're going to pick the Bears just because they have to win. If not, they're not going to win another game for the rest of the year, which isn't bad because we keep looking at draft pick, baby. Just stay your eyes on the prize, Bears fans. This season is already a success because we found our quarterback and you build from there. But as far as a W, I'm going to pick them for this week just because I feel like it's their last shot to actually win the game. So I'm going to go with the Bears this week. Bills Browns, which has been moved to Detroit. This game will be going on at Ford Field because I think of a massive, massive snowstorm. I don't know how massive the snowstorm is, but it must be pretty massive if you're moving it from Buffalo because we've seen a lot of classic snow games in Buffalo, New York. So they must be even more severe than we can imagine. So that game will be going on same time, but it will be in Ford Field in Dallas in a neutral spot. But I'm going with the Bills. The Browns only have, I think, like 2 more weeks before the nasty man, Deshaun Watson, returns and is able to, quarterback the team for the rest of the season. But the Bills, they're gonna be angry coming off 2 losses. They know what they got to do, and I think they're gonna go over there and they're gonna take care of business pretty quickly against the Browns. I'm not expecting this game to be competitive whatsoever. Next is another team, another pissed off team who lost last week, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles going to Indianapolis to play the Colts. This will be Jeff Saturday's home debut as a coach. And congrats to them for having a win last week. That ends this Sunday, Bubba. I think that Jalen Hurts, I think that A.J. Brown, I think Devontae Smith, I think that entire offense is going to bounce back. I expect a big game from the defense. They just signed a Ndamukong Suh. Now, I don't know if he's playing this week, but they're going to bounce back, do what they got to do, and just restore their dominance back in the NFC. I see no part of the Colts win this. And like I said earlier with the Bills Browns game, I don't think this one's gonna be close either. I think the Eagles are gonna get it together and get it right. Next Jets Patriots on my sneaky good games list. I'm gonna go with the Jets. I believe in the Jets as a competitive team. And I just think that Matt Jones is trash. And I do think Zach Wilson is trash too, but I believe in the running game of the defense of the Jets more than I believe in the Patriots. So I'm gonna go with the Jets. Rams Saints. My question for you is why would you watch this football game? Wow, we don't know if Matthew Stafford is playing. He missed last week with concussion. I don't know if he practiced this week, but Cooper Kupp is on IR, so that takes that out. So that means that you got to rely on guys like Allen Robinson. Good luck. But I'm gonna pick the Rams just because the Saints are way worse than them. And my sneaky team pick of the Saints earlier this year looks completely foolish at this point. I'm not right all the time. I'm right about 95% of the time. This was another little 5% where I was wrong. And this is going to be a terrible game. Don't waste your time. I don't even think the red zone is going to show much of this game. But I'm going to go Rams and Saints. Giants Lions is an interesting game to me. It's an interesting game because the Detroit Lions got to be feeling good right now. 2 weeks ago, you beat the Green Bay Packers at home. Last week, you got your first road win in like 13 games, which peak Bears that we allow something like that. Well, they allow something like that. Excuse me. I want to say we anymore. I'm a man of the media, but they allow that. But a big comeback win. They were down 14 on the road, winning their first road game in 13 games. They got to be feeling good, and they're gonna be going up against a team in the Giants, who I think is the most flawed 7-2 team ever. The Giants struggled last week with the Texans. I wouldn't be shocked if the Lions won this game, but the Lions defense is terrible. It's terrible, and I'm gonna pick the Giants this week. But this is very interesting, and I probably should have put that on my sneaky game list. I probably should have took Cardinals Niners out, but whatever. We're past that by now. So I'm going to say Giants over Lions. Ravens come back from their bye week. They'll be playing the Carolina Panthers. Ravens gonna win this one. Ravens gonna win this one. And the Ravens have a chance to really pad their lead in the AFC North right now. I think you're gonna get a lot of Lamar, and I think defense is gonna shut the Panthers down. So I'm gonna go with the Ravens with this one. Commanders Texans. Commanders are low key in this wild card race too. They're low key in this wild card race. They're at 500 now. They have a chance to go over 500 against a terrible Texans team, and I think they will do just that. And you will hear my favorite fight song right now, which is the Washington Commanders song. Go check that out on YouTube. Even Tyler Heineke and them know the hands up Commanders thing, what I thought was pretty hilarious. But I'm gonna go with the Commanders over the Texans. I just have one wish for the Texans. Please do not fire my man Lovey. Because black coaches always get the end of the stick where you want them to fix an unfixable situation. He was not gonna win this year. And I know y'all was just only hired Lovey because you couldn't justify hiring Josh McCown. It would be very nasty if you fired this man to hire a Josh McCown who has no coach experience outside of high school level, kind of like the Jeff Saturday thing. Fire a Super Bowl coach in Lovey Smith who won the Super Bowl with the Buccaneers and took his team to the Super Bowl with the Chicago Bears. Took them to a couple NFC championship games while he was too. A lot more experience, but you know how it is. So I'm hoping that he doesn't get fired and just chalk this up to being the year that he had no shot of winning. But I will take the Commanders this week. Raiders Broncos. This is another why would you waste your time? Why would you waste your time? Two of the most disappointing teams in the NFL. It's not even close. Like it went from letting Russ cook to you get visibly angry when you see the Denver Broncos on a football schedule. Like, why would you subject yourself to that type of offense? And this coming from a guy who's watched ridiculous offense 99% of his life. and I don't even want to watch this crap, but I will give the Raiders an edge because the Raiders are a better offensive team by the Broncos, but this will be a very stupid game. But I'm going to go by the Raiders, with the Raiders by the slimmest of margins. Vikings Cowboys, which is my number one must watch game this week. I'm going to pick the Vikings. Cowboys really made me angry last week with that just blowing their shot with the Green Bay Packers. And I see no reason why they go out here and beat a team that's better than the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings will be at the crib. The Vikings know what's ahead of them right now. Shot to have the road to the Super Bowl go to Minnesota. And I expect this to win this. I do think it'll be a competitive game, but I got the Vikings winning by at least 10. Bengals Steelers, this should be a win this should be a game that should be an easy win for the Bengals, but it won't because they've been playing stupid all year. But the Steelers are not a good football team. They're still building with their young quarterback and Kenny Pickett, and the Bengals are in win now mode. I'm going to give it to the Bengals this week because I believe in their offense more. Then Sunday Night Football, Chiefs, Chargers. Chargers coming off a loss last week to the San Francisco 49ers. They're going to come have another loss on Sunday Night Football. Back-to-back Sunday Night Footballs for them. What's up with that? And they're going to lose this one. I got the Chiefs winning this one pretty easily, and the Chiefs are going to end this AFC West race next week. Just might as well get in the division winning shirts. And then the last game of the week, Monday Night Football, Niners Cardinals. I got the Niners winning that, whether Kyler Murray plays or not. This team just is on. They have so many weapons. Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, it's just everything they got over there. I really love the offensive weapons. And of course, the question with them is always the question that we have with Jimmy G. Is this Jimmy G gonna not play stupid for them to win? But I think the Cardinals are just the definition of mediocre. Like, you look up mediocre in the dictionary, you're gonna see a picture of the Arizona Cardinals logo. So I'm gonna go with the Niners. So those are my picks for week 11. For this week 11 week of football, man. And we're gonna wrap this up with my Goofy Mug of the week. My Goofy Mug of the week. I think I'm just gonna rename Goofy Mug of the week to the Brooklyn Nets Award. I think that's why I think I'm going to name it to, because we've had many Brooklyn Nets over the last year as my Goofy Mug of the week. And this one I gotta give it to my guy KD, man. My guy Kevin Durant. I'm gonna read off the quote. This guy was an interview with Bleach Report's Chris Haynes when he's talking about his trade request last summer. He said, when we're all playing like shit, the one person that they're going to look at. That's why I requested the trade. Look at our starting lineup: Edmund Sumner, Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris, Nick Claxton, and me. It's not disrespect, but what are you expecting from that group? You expect us to win because I'm out there. Now, it's more, this is the issue I have with this quote by Mr. Durant. I like the openness of it. We want athletes to be more open and say things that they mean. My problem was not him explaining why he wanted a trade. My problem was naming your teammates. You can't do that as the leader of a team. If I'm Royce O'Neal, if I'm Nick Claxton, if I'm the other dude he named, I got a problem with that. And I got to talk to Katie like, yo, what's good, bro? Like, what you trying to say? Now, we all know what Katie is trying to say. We all have eyes. We know these are not players that you're going to win a championship with. So he's not wrong by what he's saying. It's just, I don't feel like you should be naming your teammates. You could have said something like, if you look at the lineup, it's kind of hard for me to win with what we have. That's different because you're not pointing guys out. So that's the issue I have with it. And then when you saying that you're basically looking for an easy way out. And then you're just confirming with all the doubters say about Kevin Durant, that none of his rings are real. He ran to Golden State because he couldn't beat Golden State. And obviously, I don't think KD cares about what the media or what the fans say, even though he responds to everything on Twitter. I don't think he does it because he cares. I think he does it just because I think he legitimately likes Twitter. But I just didn't like this quote. And especially with the way they've been playing, with everything going on, I feel like as a leader, you got to do better than that, man. And if I was KD's teammate, I'd have a problem with what he said. And I'm tired of everything Brooklyn Nets involved. I wish nothing but pain for that franchise. Everybody top to bottom. Like, KD's been doing goofy stuff. We already know how I feel about Kyrie. I mean, even the owner, Joe Tsai, like, as much as you're condemning Kyrie, Jaylen Brown says something smart too. Like, look, go look up this is 2023 basically. We got Google. We can go look up who you're supporting. We can look up the guys that the brands and and businesses that the Nets are in bed with, and there's a lot of racist situations that they're involved in. So it's like the pot calling the kettle black. Like you condemning Kyrie for the same lot of stuff you doing. So it's just a whole mess over there in Brooklyn, and I've never been more irritated by a team than I am the Brooklyn Nets, man. So we're gonna change this week's Goofy Mog of the Week to the Brooklyn Nets Award because Kevin Durant is yet another inductor into this Hall of Fame. And I'm gonna have Joe decide share this Goofy Mog of the Week because he got a lot of nerve. Two things can be right at the same time. I like to say, yes, Kyrie can be an idiot and be wrong in what he said. Joe Tsai can be, a hypocrite for saying the things he's saying, considering the businesses that he's in bed with. So I'm going to give a double Goofy Mog of the Week to them. So that's all I got for y'all this week. A little shorter than usual, about 15 minutes shorter than usual, but not too much going on this week. We will be off next week because next week is Thanksgiving. So I hope y'all enjoyed spending y'all time with your family. We'll have a lot of great NFL action to watch next week. And then next week I will be in New York. So I couldn't do the show on Friday anyway. So it'll be no show because of Thanksgiving and because I will be out of town. But we'll be back first week of December. So come through, check us out. We're gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about. And I'm looking forward to it, man. So I appreciate each and every one of y'all who watch this show week in and week out, man. I could be talking to two of y'all. So I appreciate all of y'all who tune in week in and week out, man. Of course, I want to give a shout out to my super producer, Pat Vito, behind the board. Shout out to him behind the camera. Shout out to all y'all. Now, you know to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BarbChestScott. Follow H&B Media at H&B Media TV on Twitter and at H&B Media on Instagram. Follow the Barbers Chair Network at Barbers Chair Net. Visit the website, thebcnet.com, and subscribe to our Patreon, man. Patreon.com/Barbers Chair Network. $5.79 Hollis package, $5 Summer Sessions package, $10 Barbers Chair All Access. We did not have an episode of Summer Sessions this week. We had a little scheduling mishap, but we will be back next week before Thanksgiving. So we'll have an episode dropping for y'all before Thanksgiving. So look out for that. And man, we'll holler at y'all next week. Y'all have a good week.
Getting paper on display, haters old news.